My name is Tommy Toon Stories. I'm a VTuber. And before that, I've been a writer for most of my life. Why did I start writing? Why do I love it? I started being a writer because I was a young kid dealing with the stresses of my childhood. And in those stressful times, I began to be enraptured by the realm of fantasy and other means of storytelling. It was means of not only escape, but expressing myself and new stories, and eventually started expressing my own feelings. Feelings of difference to my peers, my desire to protect those I care for, and the stories of dragons. My first story was called Blue Fire, or Blue Flame. Honestly, I can't remember what the exact title was, but I remember it followed a blue dragon and his human friend. As you can tell, I don't remember much of it, as it had been written when I was about 8-ish years old-ish. Ish, ish, ish. But from there, ideas began to spring forth. And soon after, I began to make new stories, new characters, and ideas began to flow like a river. It was something that was reliable in spite of the troubles that my life had. I still managed to find some solace in delving into these different worlds of mine, but also within writing I found wisdom as well. Some of my favorite stories over the years and worlds that I built have been a few ideas in particular, that being my superhero-inspired world of Variants, the Jurassic Park-inspired sci-fi thriller The Primeval Hunt, a world of magic and creation sparked from boredom called Conjurer's Game, and a story tackling the darkness of fear called Flames of Shadow. All these stories, and others I've told, are a part of me, and who I am. And to me that is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. When writing is written well, it is written with authenticity and a piece of our own selves. I think that is what I enjoy about writing most. Not just the feeling of excitement in making the stories, but confronting that feeling of fear of vulnerability, and then writing in those pieces of yourself into it anyway. It allows people to view you in a way that is unique. Every piece of writing, it is a reflection of the writers who wrote them, a reflection of who they are, who they were, and the mindset they had when they made whatever they wrote. And personally, I think that's really neat. It's also allowed me to have a unique perspective on life, as life as I know it is very different from the average person. As you know, I'm autistic, so my brain doesn't perceive or function the same way as the majority, the neurotypical. With writing, it allows me to perceive things in ways beyond just my initial thoughts and experience. It allows me to write a voice that is different from mine, one that would ring into my head and would allow me to hear the character speak. And in those moments of speaking, I can faintly hear a writer's voice within. It is a weird thing, yes, but when I read and write, it is imparting my voice into the words, and imparting the writer's voice into my mind. All writers do this, more than they realize, and that is a beautiful thing. When writing is written well and with sincerity and honesty, you really get a look into who wrote the words. It allows a perspective to be gleaned that you wouldn't have gotten before, but also allows you to not only be honest to your readers, it makes you be honest with yourself. That is an aspect of writing I don't think is talked about enough as a creative. Writing and creating is a very vulnerable thing, especially when you're doing so in a way people see it. One of my favorite videos I've done tells the story of my late brother. It is a story of trials, medical scares, happiness, and a brother's grief. That video is called Little Lizard, my brother's story. I honestly can say that was the hardest writing project I'd ever written. I wrote it within a few hours, but within those few hours, I cried so so many tears. And it wasn't hard because of the complexity of the words. It was hard because of all the emotions behind it. The honesty I had to present in that piece was far more than I'd ever dared do before. And oftentimes, people are intimidated by the prospect of writing. I've heard the same thing over and over. I couldn't do it. I'm not skilled enough to be a writer. And to that, I disagree. There are quote-unquote low-skill writers, but they are still writers. Even if all you write are self-indulgent fan fictions, you are still creating. The barrier of entry into creativity is just taking those first steps. And after all these years of writing, I still have plenty to learn. I don't even think I'm a good writer most of the time. But if I stopped and let that self-critical voice win, I would have never written Little Lizard. So many other stories would have never been written if writers let the inner critical voice win. Jurassic Park, Star Wars, The Odyssey, and so many others would never have existed. Could you imagine a world without your favorite stories? It'd be incredibly boring and strange, wouldn't it? Even if you don't think your story is good in comparison to more iconic tales or more recent stories that have been made, you will likely have at least one person who will become invested in your story. And to me, that alone should be enough reason to write. And even if you don't have someone who reads it, write it for your sake, if nothing else. Because you yourself must also be invested in your story, in equal, if not more parts than readers. Stories also serve a purpose beyond just entertainment. They contain lessons, cautionary tales, and inspirations for those who behold them. The origins of stories find themselves in parables, legends, and poems, oftentimes with ironies or lessons to glean from them. I personally feel like a story that doesn't have at least some kind of message within, or at least a intent or purpose behind it, makes the story kind of shallow. Though, of course, not every story needs a complex lesson or message. But even something very simple, or just a simple goal or lesson, it is better than nothing. And one of my favorite stories in media is Tales of the Abyss. It is a brilliant game that tackles some very existential crises and questions of morality. But also, I think people get too hung up on making lessons or messaging and get lost in the sense of focusing too much on lessons, messages, and preaching that they forget to tell a good story. Especially when that messaging is done in a condescending or confrontational tone. When it is done right, a story can change a person's whole perspective on life, or even just simply make them feel emotions stronger than they would before. That is beautiful. There was one aspect of writing that I don't see many talk about that I wanted to address before the end of this episode. Words, and writing those words down can be so incredibly relaxing. It works the mind, it brings out internal monologue into a more external form. It also can give others an insight into yourself, as I have said before. Writing has also been a source of self-reflection in my life as well. It's allowed me to process things about myself, the world around me, and I'm thankful to have this medium. It allows me to explore topics, worlds, people, and so many different creative avenues. Why I love writing isn't a simple answer, but the simplest reason I can give is that it's my passion. My name is Tommytoon Stories. Thank you for tuning into Why I Love, and I will see you next time.